Did you know that paying your taxes is actually one of the best ways to hit a new card welcome bonus every single year? Even better, what if I told you you could hit 2 new card welcome bonuses doing the exact same thing? Now, if you're like me and you've used TurboTax to pay for your taxes, then you probably already know that you have the ability to use a credit card to pay for them. But did you know that you can use 2 different credit cards to get 2 separate welcome bonuses this way? Howdy, I'm Hutch, and today I'm going to walk through how to pay for your taxes with multiple credit cards using TurboTax. I'll go over what you should do to prep, how you can actually pay for your taxes with multiple credit cards even though there isn't that option on TurboTax, and cover my own personal thoughts on when I believe this is actually a worthwhile thing to do. Very quick favor, if you find this video useful, please like the video and consider subscribing if you'd like to see more content from me. Now, if you didn't know, then yes, the IRS does allow you to legally pay for your taxes with credit cards. In fact, depending on the form that you are filing, you can actually use multiple credit cards to pay for your taxes. But if you've made it to the end of filing with TurboTax, then you probably already know that you only have one option to use a credit card to pay for your taxes. You can't split it into multiple payments. No worries, I'm gonna show you how to sidestep this little inconvenience so that you can still get 2 separate credit card welcome bonuses if you wanted to. Now, I'm gonna talk through the entire process here, but I totally recognize that there are some people that just want the quick and dirty answer. They don't wanna be here for the next however many minutes. So I'm going to drop the timestamp to when I actually show you how you can go about doing this if you just wanna speed up that. It's Future Hutch here. I just wanted to make sure that my stance on this is perfectly clear. I don't think you should be using credit cards if you don't plan to pay off the entire balance by the end of the statement period. In fact, my own personal belief is that you should pay off your credit card balance the moment you have any spend on it. I almost treat my credit card like a debit card. The second I put spend on it, I almost immediately pay off the balance because I don't even want to remotely have the risk of needing to pay additional interest fees. You know yourself best. If you're going to pay a balance, then really you shouldn't be watching this video. My recommendation is don't use credit cards. Full stop. Now, if you are going to not hold a balance on your credit cards, then this is a perfect option for you. I'll also say that this method really makes a lot of sense depending on what you actually owe the government in taxes. If you actually are getting money back or you owe a very, very small amount, then this method might not be the best thing. In fact, I would argue that you should skip this method altogether because in the end, it's not going to be worth it for you. And I'll hopefully show that when we go through my numbers and the math for why this made sense for me. The step 1 is really before you do anything with your credit cards whatsoever, you want to get a sense for how much money you're actually going to need to pay for your taxes. And really, this is as simple as just going through TurboTax and filling out your taxes. By the end of the entire process, you'll get an estimate for how much money you owe, and you can use this estimate to figure out what makes the most sense for you for getting a welcome bonus. Based off of how much money you're going to owe, you can look for credit cards that are roughly around the same cost or similar cost so that by paying with that card, you will instantly get the bonus. For maximum efficiency, you probably want to time opening up a new credit card within 2 to 3 months of actually paying for your taxes. Most credit cards have welcome bonus language that says you must hit a certain amount of spend within the first 3 months of opening the card. This just makes sure that you're able to pay for your taxes within a certain time frame such that that welcome bonus offer won't lapse. I'm gonna actually show you an example using my own numbers for my taxes that I filed this year. I knew that I was gonna have to pay a pretty hefty tax bill, so I actually used that knowledge to my advantage and opened up 2 new credit cards at the beginning of the year that had very high elevated welcome bonuses. The first was the American Express Business Platinum. I got that with a 190,000 point welcome bonus as long as you spend $15,000 within the first 3 months, as well as the American Express Gold Business Card, which had a 130,000 point welcome offer as long as you spent $10,000 within the first 3 months. Now, normally I wouldn't even consider these cards. I wouldn't look at these cards whatsoever because for me personally, that's actually a lot of spend within that time frame. But again, I knew that I was gonna have a very, very high bill for my taxes this year. So I figured, hey, why not get some points out of it, right? So as you can see here, we get to the end of me filing on TurboTax and whew, that's a lot of money to be paying the government and state. Okay, well, let's ignore the fact that I'm thoroughly depressed by having to pay the government this much. Let's talk about how I can actually go about paying it now. So you see I'm clicking through the options to file for my federal taxes, and hey, there's no option on TurboTax to actually pay for more than just one credit card. There's no real clear option for that. Instead, what we're going to do is that we're going to click on pay by check, and then we'll ignore the state taxes for now. I'll talk about that a little bit later. We're gonna go ahead and click continue, and I want to e-file. We'll fill out all the remaining information, and now it's time for one last look over your federal and state tax returns. And then once you've gone through this entire step and have e-filed your taxes, you should get a PDF printout of your return. It's good to have, keep it on file, definitely for your own personal file, but as far as what to do next with mailing in a check and all that, you're gonna completely ignore it. I think this part's actually pretty crucial. Before you do anything else, you wanna make sure that your taxes are actually accepted. There's no point in doing this next part of paying for your taxes with your credit cards if they just come back rejected anyways and you have to make changes. So before you go to the next step, please make sure that that little bar reads as accepted for your federal and your state taxes. Assuming all of that is okay, we can actually go to the next step, which is paying for your taxes with 2 different credit cards. All you're going to do is take the total amount that you owe to the federal government and divide that number by 2. This is going to give you 2 different halves to pay, and these are the numbers that you're going to use on each credit card. Next, you're just gonna go to the IRS's website. They have a link, I'll put it down in the description below, where you can have the option to pay for your taxes with credit cards. Next, you're going to select what tax form you have. For the purposes of this video, I'm just talking about regular 1040s. And select your current tax year. As of this recording, this is obviously for 2023. Now for payment amount, again, you're going to take that total number that you owed in federal taxes divided by 2. That's the amount that you're going to put here for the first payment. And once you filled all this out, you'll get a receipt confirming the payment for your taxes. You'll also notice that you definitely got hit with a pretty substantial convenience fee. I'm gonna show you in a little bit why that's actually perfectly okay for you. Next, you're gonna do the exact same thing, just with another card. So in this instance, I've already paid with my Amex Platinum. Now I'm going to pay with the Gold Card. And the total spend amount that I had to make in order to be eligible for both these bonuses was a combined total of $25,000. These taxes easily covered that. So just by putting this one spend on both of these cards for something that I had to do anyway this year, I instantly got both of those welcome bonuses. So my thoughts on this method. First, I think this is a great and underutilized way to easily hit welcome bonuses if you have that required spend amount anyway. I am a firm believer that you should not be opening up credit cards or chasing welcome bonuses if you weren't going to normally be spending that amount of money to hit those bonuses anyway. And taxes is like the number one thing that you're going to have to spend money on regardless. So if you have high enough taxes, it just makes sense in my mind that you use a credit card with a high welcome bonus to pay those taxes. But Hutch, you're paying for over $1,000 in just processing fees. What's up with that? Why did I say it like that? Yes, okay, you're going to be paying for some additional money out of pocket to cover those convenience fees, but let's take a look at why this makes total sense to do anyway if you are chasing high welcome bonus offers. So if we take the American Express Business Platinum, for example, this is a 190,000 point welcome offer after spending $15,000 in 3 months' time. If we translate that into a dollar amount, taking 2 cents per point as the kind of average for MR points with American Express, we see that this welcome bonus is valued at around $3,800 just by itself. Subtract out the $500 or so for the convenience fee, I'm still coming out ahead at over $2,000 back for using this card to pay for my taxes. But wait, there's actually something more here, because with the American Express Business Platinum card, you also get a 1.5x multiplier for any amount of spending over $5,000. And I definitely spent over $5,000 on these taxes. So if we multiply the total dollar amount that I spent on this purchase over the $5,000 threshold, you'll see that I almost get an additional 43,000 points just for using this card on top of the welcome bonus. Again, translating that into a dollar value, that's almost an additional $850 or so added to this bonus. And that was just with one card. Remember, I'm doing this with 2. So again, do the exact same math here. You have 130,000 points for spending $10,000 in 3 months with the gold card. That comes out to a value of $2,600. Again, if we assume 2 cents per point, on MR points, subtract out the $395 annual fee, and that gives us $2,205 of value for using this card. We once again subtract out the convenience fee that we're going to get for using this card, so again another $500 or so. That still leaves us with $1,705 of value for hitting this welcome bonus. There's more points to be had here because we're going over the actual threshold that you need to hit the welcome bonus. It's not a huge amount by any means. This is just a 1x multiplier for the business gold in particular, but still, those are some additional points that we get for going above that threshold. So adding up both welcome bonuses and the additional points on the spend for my taxes, I netted almost 400,000 MR points this year just on taxes. That is crazy. Now, obviously, there is a flip side to this, and I talked about it a little bit already, but I think this is a terrible idea, a horrible mistake if you don't have a high welcome bonus that you can get from a credit card to make this make sense. If you're just trying to use a credit card to get additional points back or cash back for spending, it's not worth it. The convenience fee for using a credit card is probably going to offset any sort of benefit that you're going to gain for using that credit card. This only really makes sense in my mind if you are going to hit a high welcome bonus and get those elevated points that you normally wouldn't be getting on just normal everyday spend. Basically, if you're not going to hit or substantially increase your ability to hit a new welcome bonus, don't use credit cards to pay for your taxes. Just my thoughts, doesn't seem like it's worth it. So hopefully my example was a good walkthrough on how to go about using multiple cards, specifically with TurboTax, but TurboTax is just one self-help tax filing system. I know there's H&R Block, there's, I think, one's called like Tax Act or something like that. There's probably a bunch of different ones. I have not personally used them, but I imagine that the process in order to make sure that you can use multiple credit cards is very much the same. If you've used H&R Block or one of these other services, please let us know if the process is similar, if there's something completely different that you have to do. Very, very interested to hear what that's actually like for other people. And the one thing that I did gloss over here is that this was specifically for federal taxes. Depending on what state you live in, you might not actually be able to pay for taxes using credit cards. This is true for me. I live in California. I was super bummed by this. In fact, I originally thought that I was going to pay for my California taxes with a credit card and my federal taxes with another credit card and basically just get a bunch of different welcome bonuses. That's not the case. Couldn't do that. Not able to do it in California. That being said, I think you are able to do that depending on if your state allows for credit card use to pay for their state taxes. If you've encountered this, let us know how that process went, if it was anything different. It was relatively simple, pretty much the same. And finally, I heard that there are ways that you can bypass this by using services like plastic, something, and similar services. I'll be honest, I haven't used those. I won't vouch for it because I don't like vouching for things that I haven't personally been able to confirm. But if you've had success doing that, let us know in the comments below. So I know that taxes are due very, very shortly, but even if you can't use this method this year, now you know about it for next year. Get those welcome bonuses if you can. That's it for me. Hope you found this video useful, and hey, thanks for hanging out.